This video is going to be a little different than most of mine. I usually do a demo or something like that, but this time I want to talk about what I'm working on, the projects going on, the things that we all deal with when we are sculpting miniatures. You know, sometimes we want to do a one-off, but usually there's a bigger project that we're striving for. And if you're anything like me, you usually have a lot of projects going on at once. Hey, I'm Tom Mason, and I teach people how to sculpt miniatures. You can learn more about that by watching this video and all the others on my channel, or you can download my ultimate quick start guide to sculpting miniatures by clicking the link down in the description below. I don't know if it's the time of year or all the challenges going on. I guess that's the same thing. We've got things like Inktober, the year is coming to an end. You know, we're approaching the fourth quarter, so there's not a lot of time to get it all done. And it seems like whatever I start in the beginning slowly builds up, and then until I have 3 or 4 things I'm trying to cram in and get done. Maybe I'll get them all done, maybe I won't, but there are 3 big projects that I'm trying to work in right now. The first one is Havoc Protocol Villainy, Ablative, a 1-box 4-game challenge game, and Inktober, which is starting in just a couple weeks. Havoc Protocol is a sci-fi miniatures line that really, I think, technically launched my personal miniatures line, Effigy Miniatures, back in 2012, I believe. Yes, it was 2012, so that makes it, what is that, 12 years ago? It was done around this time as well. Havoc Protocol was really the first time that I started designing my own figures. I was doing a lot more drawing and creating the look and everything, and then sculpting what I drew. And so it was very special to me. However, I had to put it on hiatus. It came out about a year before I joined MegaCon Games. And when I joined them, I had to set it aside and couldn't work on it because I was focused on Mercs and Myth and all that stuff. But I always really liked the line, and I was bummed that it wouldn't be available. But a good friend of mine, Dave Farr, picked it up and made it available during the course of my time at MegaCon, actually until earlier this year, when he gifted the line back to me and encouraged me to make new figures for it. So that's what I'm doing now. One of the biggest reasons I'm excited about working on Havoc Protocol again is a chance to work with my good friend Aaron Minier. I ended up, during the Kickstarter, I needed to give it an extra kick, an extra oomph. And so I worked with my good friend Aaron Minier, who did this piece here. That's one of his pages from his comic Black Rose. And he did these amazing concepts for the Founders, which were these sci-fi executive characters. Great figures, loved sculpting them. Well, I've teamed up with Aaron again. This time, he's adding his awesome style and take to create the villain that the Havoc Protocol characters will be going up against. So I'm working on that figure right now. I'm very excited for you to see how it turns out. I'm so blessed that Aaron is a part of this project. His talents are amazing. He's a fantastic illustrator, and I encourage you to go check out his art, either at aaronminier.com or his Etsy store, Aaron Minier Art, however you find that. I'll put links down in the description below to both. Aaron is a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid, which you maybe can tell from the artwork that he created. I actually asked him to work some of that style into the villain, and he has fantastic art, original art, prints and things that he's created for Metal Gear Solid, as well as a lot of other really cool properties. Along with the new villain character, I'm adding in more specialist trooper figures. So these are going to complement the current squad, but they're going to have special weapons, things like a sniper, 2 different heavies, a comms officer, and a medic. So it'll really help flesh out the squad, give them a little bit more specific actions they can take, and start to flesh out the world a little more. It's been really fun getting back into the sculpting sci-fi. It has been so long since I have sculpted anything sci-fi technical. I think the last time I did anything was when I sculpted that cyborg arm in one of my previous videos, and that was for my son, and that was only a few years after Havoc Protocol, so it's been a long time. I'm also taking this time to really challenge myself. These figures are going to be put up on offer on Kickstarter, and I'm challenging myself to try a few different things with the campaign. I didn't do one last year, I did one the year before, and I wanted to, but I was kind of getting into a formula with them. And this one, I'm gonna do a few different things. One, I'm trying to get all the figures painted for the Kickstarter, so it'll help make everything look a little nicer and even more finished and more polished. And I'm gonna run the Kickstarter a little longer. So it's going to start on October 1st and go until October 30th. So everybody, it'll be all done and wrapped up by the time everybody's going trick-or-treating for Halloween. The next thing I'm working on is a miniature skirmish game for the One Box War Game Challenge put on by Milev. If you haven't heard of this, it kind of got its start when Milev was working on one of his latest micro games called Convict Combat. And it's where you take a single box of miniatures, it could be a set of medals, plastic kit, and you come up with a set of war games that works around that single box. Just in and out, really easy, and it challenges you as a designer to get something made, and it allows you and everybody else who plays it a really easy in to be playing a really unique, fun game. So when I saw Mallet post this, I had to give it a try. I know I've got the Goblin Menace going on right now, so please don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. I'm still planning on working on it, but to be honest, the game I'm working on now, it's called Ablative, and that is actually a game that I started writing before I made the Goblin Menace. And it was pretty far along, but as I dug into the challenge, I realized there was a little more to do than I thought, but it was a much more complete thought, and it just needed this little push to really put it over the edge. Ablative is the game of power armor shredding action. You play as squads of power armored troopers from space, if you know what I mean. And you're just blasting chunks of armor off each other as you dash around the battlefield, taking objectives, doing different scenarios. For my game, it was recommended in the challenge to just do one scenario, but I just couldn't do it. I don't like playing just typical stand-up fights, so I came up with 3 scenarios that all link together, that when you play them in sequence, creates a neat little story, and each mission, depending on how it ends, will inform the setup and some of the dynamics in each scenario that follows. The challenge ends on September 30th, so my goal with this is to do the last of my playtesting, at least the tentative playtesting, to get the book into a final state that I could pass it out to people to continue to play test and try it out. That's also part of the challenge, is you can join this group on the Rule of Carnage Discord and put your game out there and get feedback, be part of that community as well. It's really been a good experience. This challenge has really pushed me to think about the entire scope of a game and a rule book. It's all the things that I'm going to need to know and I'm going to have to put into place when I do start to polish off and finish the Goblin Menace. And while for now the plan is for you to use any power armored troopers you want, I would love to sculpt some of my own someday. So that might be coming in the near future. But I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself, because I have one more project to talk about. The last project that I'm trying to fit in this year, and that starts on October 1st, and that's Inktober. I did Inktober 2 years ago, where I did a theme of the Goblin Menace to help really kickstart things and jumpstart the juices, get the juices flowing for the game, to give me more characters to think about creating and things to flesh out the world with. And that worked great. I wanted to do it last year, but there ended up being a few other things going on, mainly working on the Goblin Menace game. I had a deadline that I had set for myself with that, as well as a rendezvous to playtest it with a friend, and that ended up taking precedent. This year, I am going to be doing Inktober. I'm trying not to give myself the out, but looking at everything else I have going on, not sure I'll be able to make all 30 days, but I am going to try my best, and I'll share my progress on that. For this year, my plan is to use the prompts from Inktober, but do my best to create a character with each one. So it might not just be a standing character, I might do a bit of an illustration, but my hope is that it will give me lots of interesting ideas for goblins to sculpt in the future. So what about you? What kind of sculpting projects do you have going on right now, or other projects, things that inspire you? I would love to hear about them, and I would love to hear if you have the same problem I do, where you have probably more than you can work on at any given time. But until next time, keep sculpting.